Braveheart Workshops, inspiring connection, restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Live well, laugh often, love much. Join our online connection circles. Be empowered in our virtual live events. Be a guest on our podcast shows. Hire us or be hired for speaking engagements. Enhance hope, health, and healing in your lives. Creating global connections. The Connection Show, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing in 2021. Sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Jennifer McGill from Tennessee. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Well, hello there, Jill. It's good to be here.
Well, I am so grateful and so excited that I got to meet you, and the audience is just going to love to get to know you. So I'm going to read your bio to them. Jennifer McGill began her career as a Mouseketeer on the Disney Channel New Mickey Mouse Club at age 10. She is a speaker, a singer, a songwriter, a worship leader, a writer, a vocal performance coach, video editor, and a vocal producer with over 30 years of experience in front of audiences around the world, performing and collaborating. And she had so many people that I shortened it, collaborating with such talented individuals that include Christina Aguilera, Boyz II Men, Carmen, Celine Dion, Danny Gokey, Michael W. Smith, Britney Spears, and Justin Timberlake, to name a few. Jennifer released her full-length pop inspirational album, Unbreakable, in 2017. Day to day, she is the executive coach for the premier artist training and management company, PCG Artist Development, as well as being the president of PCG Online. Jennifer frequently travels to teach, inspire, and encourage all generations to live with genuine purpose and to train recording artists to be fully authentic and whole from the inside out. Jennifer's first spiritual growth video series, Living Your Unbreakable Life, will be available through her website later this year, and she all did this in 10 years. No, I'm teasing. Oh, Jennifer, you're amazing.
Thanks.
I got to look at your Jennifer as a Mouseketeer. You were so cute then, and you're even more cute. Gorgeous now.
I just grew into a cute adult, and that's totally fine.
Gorgeous, my dear. Well, Jennifer, on the Connection Show, we really love connecting with others, and especially, people from all over the globe, and hearing their stories. And I really believe in my whole heart that God gave us the gift of story and accounts of our life to not only help ourselves, but to spread that love to others, where that story weaves from our soul into theirs and brings so much transformation to the world. And so, Jen, if you're willing, I would love for you to take us on a journey back to little Jennifer and share with the audience a little bit what it was like, the good, the bad, and the ugly growing up, and then how it weaved you into today with this amazing record, Unbreakable.
So in the very beginning of times, I knew very, very early that I loved to sing and that I was good at it for a little girl. And my mother was a local small town vocal coach and had a minor in music. And so she was a great companion to just start this journey of figuring out what to do with this thing that I loved to do, that I was good at. And I watched, I'm from Texas. I watched the Miss Texas pageant when I was 7. And I was just thrilled with the competition and with the idea that maybe if I sang really loud and big, I could win a crown. And really, singing became my sport. Some people prepare for soccer and baseball and whatever, and I was preparing for talent competitions. And so that's what my mother and I set out to do as our sport together. And I did really well. I really thrived in that kind of get up there and wow them and give them all you got, and then, get off the stage and go play somewhere. It was a wonderful duality that I was comfortable handling at such a young age. I was in competitions and won about 50 different trophies from 7 to 10 years old. It was a short amount of time when you think back on when you had to order cassette tapes in your correct key and you had to wait for everything to come into the mail, and my mother would sew by hand most of my outfits. It was a very time consuming yet rewarding time that we had together. And we did a lot in a short amount of time with that. When I was 10, I was cast as a Mouseketeer. And so my professional career started very early, and I had nothing to compare it to. I wasn't in a town of child performers. I didn't even enjoy the beauty pageant part of pageants. I really just loved to get out there and sing. And whatever that meant on stage, that's what I was for. So I wasn't necessarily comparing myself to everybody else as far as what beauty meant or anything until really I stepped into the soundstage of the new Mickey Mouse Club, where it was for a while, equally dazzling to see so many young people who did what I did, but in their own ways. Like, everybody was differently diverse and talented, and some were better dancers, some were super funny, and I was just this high, loud belter, this little blonde-haired, blue-eyed, like Broadway loud house, and it was a really cool time. But around when I was 12, I started going through like all of the growth spurt time where I kind of widened before I shot up, and no one knew like what would happen. No one knew I'd get tall, but at the time I was small, but round a little bit in my middle, and I had definitely the round face. Now, these days, I don't think it would have been that big of a deal, because honestly, I would have been really our only rounder little girl on the show at the time, and that would have been something to add to the diversity. But in the early 90s, I don't think production was interested in that at that time.
Well,
And so
it kind of mirrored back into the 60s, 70s, when all the high fashion models had to look like
right.
Twiggy. They all had to look like
Yes.
Twiggy.
And everybody was pretty skinny on that show. We had some very little waists, and stick legs and all the things. And here I was, they were starting to have to put me in baggy shirts, and I could tell they were starting to hide me a little bit. And I don't think I ever got made fun of by the kids, to my face at least. I mean, again, we're all a family, and I don't hold any grudges if that were even the case. We were all 12, 13, 14. I mean, it was a difficult it's a difficult range of ages to try to put together and find perfect harmony. But I would say we were most like a family, where we might have squabbles, but it all worked out, and everyone had a good experience when you come out of it and go, okay, I got through that. I learned a lot, blah, 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 but we are all a family still. And my struggle was when my mother and I were brought into the production office, and I was told at 12 years old, we're not saying lose weight, but we're saying don't gain anymore. And when you're 12, that's virtually impossible to manipulate at all, right? Like, you don't want to deplete a body from calories, but you also don't know how your body's going to handle shaping itself into the next version of what you're going to be. So, we just didn't have as much information or as much peace about it as I do nowadays, as far as that's a company, they're hiring people for whatever they need them to be. They wanted me to be something more than what I was at that time. And I spent, the rest of my time on that show until I was like 17 years old, trying to figure that out. And so that was a big, I would say that was a big trauma for me, because that was the first time my eyes were open to comparing myself on the outside to what everybody else looked like or did or how they were, right? Identity changed for me at 12.
Well, and then also, Jennifer, like for the audience to understand this too, is there is a very very deadly disease that a lot of people don't even know about. It's called restrictive avoidance disorder. And it's a severe eating disorder that really is actually starting up in a lot of young kids right now, where parents tend to call it picky eating. But it isn't. It gets to be a disease where a child actually starts to feel fearful of food and the textures. And so when you're told at a young age that you have to restrict gaining weight, your mind goes into this whirlwind of thinking you have to start restricting food that so that you don't get larger, and it messes with the mind. But go on with that. I just wanted to bring that into play because those kind of words and things that people say to a child, they have no idea what it's going to do to them for the rest of their life.
Right. And I can't imagine how helpless my mom must have felt because she has been such an advocate. Her whole life was about lifting up people and seeing the positive and um, peace of mind and just all, just a lot of good stuff. And to have this in her home with her child and knowing this is a huge opportunity and us coming from a small existence before this and then being opened up to this big world of Orlando, Florida and Disney and all these changes, I'm sure that she felt very, very helpless in a sense. And the good news is that I think over time, I did not choose the bulimia or the anorexia. Like if I had an eating disorder, it would have been like the binging, but not the purging, if that makes sense. I would just eat my feelings, right? And so even though I know I have struggled with food for most of my life from that point on, I believe that my fitness is greater, that my awareness of health and my awareness of food and fighting to put the right things in my body and to help my body to move, that has over time been better. It's almost like I turned a trauma into something that really is the best that it can be as far as turning it into good,
Well, so
yeah.
Jennifer, so I'm glad you just said what you said because this is really impactful for the audience to connect because I know a lot of people can relate to what you're saying. So going back a little bit now, so at that time, because I too I was diagnosed with restrictive avoidance disorder / binge eating. So normally what a lot of people don't know about eating disorders, I've been in treatment 5 times. What most people don't know is usually the binge eater, a lot of times it manifests first with restrictive avoidance. So what that means is, do you remember at all, and it may not be your story, so if it's not, I'm not trying to put a story into you that's not there. Do you have any memory of when this was going on that you would try during the daytime, like breakfast or lunch, to skip meals? And then you'd be so ravenous that you'd come home and want to binge because it was like, oh gosh, I feel so empty inside and so starving that you'd grab whatever you could. Did you go on that kind of a realm at all?
I would say that I probably didn't on purpose avoid meals, but I did. Like one time on the Mickey Mouse Club, they voted me the healthiest eater, and I thought that was the funniest, but privately most embarrassing thing because I would try to eat well in front of everybody else, but I would hoard all of the M&Ms and all of the Doritos, and I would take them to the dressing room, or I would get them home where we didn't have those foods, and I would eat them privately.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what I mean. I was more of a binger
Mm-hmm.
towards the evening, and the thing is that my job was very active and we went on tours, like we were dancing and it was a huge mobile situation. So also when I started to grow up, I reached almost right at 5'7" by the time I was like 14 years old, maybe
Wow.
15. And so then I was taller than half the boys on the show, but I was still broader, right? Like I'm kind of like a like a tiny Amazon, right? Like I'm really built for strength, if that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to joke I'm built for tough. Because now I embrace my strength and the fact that, I can, tote a bunch of boxes around, and I can lift heavy things. And at one point, about 2 years ago, I was deadlifting 100 pounds, which was something I never had thought I would be doing. There's a lot of strength in my body, but at the time when you see and think that skinny is what you're supposed to be, skinny and petite and little, everything about me but my little face was way too big for everybody, for everybody else's standards that I had projected onto the situation,
Well,
right?
you would be a great spokesperson for, there's an organization, Jennifer, right, if you, at the end, write it down. It's called Health at Every Size. And it's a
Oh,
really cool
sounds good.
organization that really teaches you that your body can be healthy at any size. And so where we've gone into this society of thinking like, I'm just going to throw a number out. Just throw a number out randomly, because numbers really don't matter, but I'm going to throw it out just for say. Let's say you're 200 pounds and you're a female and you're 200 pounds. And let's say your body mass index is 40. Well, the world and the doctors will say that you're obese and that
Mm-hmm.
you're unhealthy. Well, the truth is, you can have all the labs done and find out your labs are absolutely perfect, your heart's perfect, your blood pressure's perfect, your cholesterol's perfect, but yet the world wants to make you seem as though you're sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the organization Health at Every Size, because it really
Okay.
embraces that numbers don't matter, and to throw your scales away, because scales are for fish, not for human beings.
It's good. That's really good. And that was what it's taken, my whole life at this point to embrace. Because really, in my world of show business, I mean, really, I have a very thick filter that I've been trying to be able to raise for most of my life. And then when I need to evaluate someone in a show business mindset, I need to put it on to say XYZ for the camera. Like playing the camera game is something, unfortunately, that show business participators have to know how to play, right? What is your angle? How do you contour? What makes you look thinner? What to wear, what not to wear? Okay, that's a game, right? But that should not be your everyday filter
Mm-hmm.
for living your life, right? So I've worked a long time to be able to remove that for most of my time, and then use it professionally when I need to help, or help myself or help someone else. But yeah, that was a big, big fight, and it was something that I didn't understand, that it didn't have to stay. I didn't understand that there was a battle I could fight with that. There were mindsets and mind strengthening and support that I could go to, or that I could work on within myself and exercise, in order to find a healthier version of I am okay, no matter what size I am, no matter what my shape is today. I'm beautiful and I'm healthy, because let me tell you, I'm 43 years old, and I am in a similar probably number. I don't know actually, but let's say I'm around what you said as far as like the poundage and the numbers or whatever. But I have no pain. I'm on no medication, and I jog over 2 miles each day if I wanted to. I'm a strong woman, and I gotta be okay with that, right? I'm doing pretty great. And I've gone through a lot of different traumas, and every one of them, starting with that one, I see how God has been training me throughout my whole life to maybe in the beginning they piled up a bit. The traumas maybe piled up and I didn't know how to deal with them. But there came a decade where I understood how to unpack everything, how to draw upon the strength of Jesus, how to really align myself with, if you don't want me to have this or be in this or be this way, take it from me. I want to be what you want me to be. And when I really boiled it down to my purpose and the love of Jesus and how Jesus treats people, how I can treat myself that same way, I was able to put my oxygen mask on so that then I could help others in the future, because I truly believe you're not able to really pour out unless you're in a place of personal healing and connection with God. And then you're able to go out, tell your story. I believe that the traumas and the mistakes that I've been through, if I open my heart up to learning from them, that's really the only way that they're going to be useful. Otherwise, it was just a regret. And I don't want to regret the lessons I've learned, because I'm still here. I was just talking to God today about that. I said, I'm still here, so there must be more that you want me to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that idea of, I can't control what other people say about me. I can't control the opinions of other people, but I can control my tribe. I can control the people that stay close to me, that inform me of who I am, that support me in wherever I am in my life, and vice versa. And I believe that that's where we should start. If you're in a place of identity crisis, I mean, God is always number one in that, because you can go to sleep at night talking to God. Sometimes your friends may fall asleep on the phone in that same experience. So
kind
he's
of
always around.
kind of like when you're dating that special guy and you're on the
You're
phone
like,
for
no, you hang up.
you hang up.
No,
No,
you
you
hang
hang
up.
up.
No.
so
Yeah,
I'm going to transition to that just for a
sure.
moment, because I just said that. So I want to transition because I think it's a really impactful part of your story. So let's bring us forward from Jennifer 17 towards adulthood with relationships that you had to go through, and then this amazing relationship you're in now with this person that lives in your home.
Yes. Uh, yeah.
Because I think that's
So
an impactful story.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, the person that lives in my home, we originally met in high school, and that's when I was a really big deal. But this person was the star of the musical we were doing that year called Guys and Dolls, and so big star. But see, I was the TV star, but then they were the star of this show, and it was just cool, like that. I had met someone that I had no interest in at the time. He was dating someone else, whatever. But it was cool that when you fast forward through all of these years, we had gone through very separate, very different, but intertwined battles with choices and relationships and, just mental health awareness, just that everybody goes through, and it's something where if we had met or decided to date, even including high school, at any of those other times, it wouldn't have made sense. But we had each picked ourselves back up after just really hard times in the name of Jesus. And we had both gone through times of a lot of self-destruction. For me, I can only speak for me here today. I just chose wrong a lot. I wanted a lot of attention. I wanted a lot of male attention. I had a lot of bitterness for a while and jealousy because a lot of my Mouseketeer buddies went on to be super duper famous. And so it was almost like I was trying to live a rock star life, but without being a rock star. And so I was trying to, because thankfully, I mean, I'm really blessed that God designed me not to automatically be, what is that word, sexualized, or to be seen as an object. People really see me for me. They see my face and the light in my eyes. That's kind of how it's always started with me in connections. And so I'm really blessed with that. I understand that may not be everybody's story, but then I would twist it, and I would start manipulating because I wanted a different kind of attention, something that was more shallow and user friendly that you could toss aside after, because I just had been so bitter and so jealous and so hurt and felt so rejected. I thought, okay, I'm going to have the power over everybody, and I'm going to use everybody else, and I'm going to manipulate. So I mean, this is the thing, like I'm very transparent as much as I can be about how I used to be, because a lot of people wouldn't think that someone like me, Mouseketeer Jen, would have maybe made those choices. And you couple that with my mother passing when I was 24, and then my sounding board was gone. Right, the person who could have said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" She was gone, and so I had a pretty healthy decade of very bad relationships and bad choices, and really I wasn't using anyone any more than they were using me. And so the pain and the detachment from God grew and grew, because
Well,
I really stopped listening.
well, and just so the audience knows this too, because again, Jennifer, if nothing else, the one thing I really understand in my life is addiction. I am like 40 years recovered from addictive behaviors. And so, what I'm just so the audience can grasp this a minute, is there's a thing called co occurring addictions. And co occurring addictions mean that if you have one addiction or one disease and you pause on it, generally, if you haven't done the deep work of healing the wounds that led to that original addiction, what will pop up is a co-occurring addiction. And so, for example, you're a binge eater and you're utilizing the binge eating to push down those emotions that just keep coming up. And so all of a sudden you pause the binge eating. Well, guess what? Those emotions are still present. That emptiness inside, that longing to be seen, that longing to be good enough, that longing to fit in, all of those deep longings have to go somewhere if they're not healed. And so a very normal choice is sex and love addictions to fill up that emptiness. And so the connecting
It's
of,
an escape.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's not even a mistake, an escape, Jen. I think I'm going to just say this because I think it's really important. It's almost a necessity for survival, and I know that sounds strange, but when we utilize protectors in managers, it keeps those exiled parts that are really like not good enough at bay, so we could exist, so we don't commit suicide or die. It sounds, but it's a very predominant way of
Hey
survival,
guys, Linda
actually. And
here. I
so
figured I
when we get to a place of unpeeling that onion and setting that disease aside, and we face those emotions, that's where the hope, health, and healing comes from. So I just want to share that because I think sometimes that we go through life when we've had our diversion in our life that's maybe doesn't seem so healthy, like acting out on sex or love or drugs or alcohol, whatever we act out on, and then we shame ourselves and go, oh God, I can't believe I did this. Well, pause a moment on that shame and go back and say, wow, was that a mechanism for
Hey
survival?
guys, Misty
For
Lane here.
survival, you
Yeah.
know? And then we take that and begin the healing so that the healing can go. So let's go back to story that you were saying. But I really need to say that because I think it's imperative as a 67-year-old wise mom talking to a younger 40-year-old woman who lost her mom at 24 to let you know that you did what you did because you needed to survive.
And I believe it. I believe it. I know that I'm a survivor and I know that I'm a silver lining person, but I also know that I am capable of a lot of wrath. I'm capable of a lot of fight. And and like I said, my whole life I have been trying to turn the bad into good, and sometimes I tried to do that myself. And like you said, self-medicate in those ways that we can escape. But coming out of all of that, I really found someone in that high schooler I used to know who understands that fight and who understands fighting the good fight of faith, who understands what shame can do if you let it stay, if you don't process it and understand that that's a self-destructive. It's human to feel that way, but don't let it stay. Do not stay in that valley. Do not camp out there. Keep moving through, And so when I was 39, I married my husband, and we became this little army, this little duo of fighting back and wanting to minister to people and talking about how, look, these are the things that can lead you into self-destruction, but you do not have to stay there and you're not alone. And through our first few years of marriage was when I started writing the Unbreakable album, and he produced over half of it and co-wrote some of the songs, one of them being Fearless. It's one of those things where every song on that album is autobiographical, and the single Unbreakable is all about, like I was just telling one of my younger client friends about the melodic rap or whatever that's in the bridge. Whatever you're facing in creation, no matter what, no separation, height or depth, life or death, the power of us passes the test. You can run at us, we push back, no surrounding us, step back. Surrender is off the table, unbreakable. And to me, that summarizes the flag that I fly now every day about being active in my healing and being active in my strength in God, and not just crossing my fingers and hoping something's going to change, but to stand up and hold God's hand that if I'm knocked down, there's, like I said, you can fall asleep talking to God. I mean, there's never a moment that you're alone, even in your darkest moments, even in the darkest moments of trauma or shame or a poor choice, everything in between. And I know we're focusing a lot on the hard stuff today, but I mean, there's just as much, if not more, light in my life that I have memories of from the show, from getting healthy, from bouncing back from each relationship, from reconnecting to God as an adult, being excited that I can hear the Holy Spirit, that I see things from God, and I hear words, and every day I'm given something that moves me. Like, I'm trying not to cry right now. It just moves me, and it helps me understand I'm not alone. And I'm really happy about it. Like, these are happy tears, but it's this constant state of being open and vulnerable to this higher power, this, your creator, God, to understand Jesus both as a human and a divine, your divine God as well, and all that, and trusting those messages. And I would not be this close to my creator had I not been through the fire, like with him. If I had not walked and gotten back up again and tried, because sure, there were times, between both of us, my husband and I, where we thought it's okay if this is our last day. There are times like that in our past where we definitely embrace that idea that, well, maybe we should give up, and we didn't. And it's not an easy thing to talk about or to get through. But in this day and age, I just can't accept that I'm supposed to stay secret about everything when my words or my experience can help at least one person out there say, okay, this is similar to what I'm going through. If she can do it, I can do it. Or if she looks okay, then I can be okay. Or if that's what she's pursuing, maybe I need to pursue God more. But it's never, like, let me just stress this. It's never a numbers game. It's never if you don't pray enough, or if you don't ask God enough or cry enough. Like, this world gives us so many challenges, and I do not believe these are dealt out by God. I don't believe that God's up there playing favorites or saying, you haven't prayed enough, so this is not going to work out for you. I do not believe that it's a numbers game. And I would not stress to anyone that you have to pray every day at a certain time and light a candle and be ritualistic at all about your expression and your relationship with God. Just start talking to God. Just in the moment, in the car, if you're listening to this now and you want to raise a hand, or if you want to put your hand on your heart, or if you just want to start asking questions, like, you don't have to be in a certain place or with a certain group of people or to light a candle. You can just have a relationship openly and internally at any time, as much as you want. And that's what saved me from, I would say, my overly organized sense of, okay, I have to do it strategically. No, anytime I want, I just want to open up my heart and my mind to what God wants to speak about, or to reveal to me, or to send me love, or to, touch my head or my heart. It's a constant gardening with God, spiritual garden. It really is. But I know that everything I've been through is so that I can encourage people that you're okay just the way you are. We can all get better. We can probably all get worse. But,
Well,
like,
and
God will meet you where
yeah,
you are.
and that is where I feel like the Holy Spirit, Jennifer, has led me this year into doing this live conference in Branson on hope, health, and healing, because what you just shared is a perfect example of what hope, health, and healing is when you've gone through the pits of hell, you've gone through the trials and the pains in your heart, and on the other side, you see the true essence of hope, health, and healing. And, Jennifer, the one thing that God gave me personally a couple of years ago, which was a whole new revelation for me, is, and it's so counter society what he gave me. He said, Jill, what would it look like if you started showing up in life with no intention? Because we're kind of trained to go through life with intention. So what if we started showing up with no intention and just became present with him instead of having these intentions?
Right.
Because we're always trying to to have a schedule. We're always trying to put it in a line, and as we're trying to put it in a line, we don't have time for God to show up to do his work in us. And so if we kind of sit back sometimes in our life with just zero intention, and the Holy Spirit comes in and fills us with hope, health, and healing, because it's his divine hope, health, and healing living in us, what an amazing transformation we could all have to weave together in our lives, right, Jen?
I think there's so much that God can reveal. Like if you said we weren't working so closely from a checklist,
Yeah.
I definitely am an organizer. And I've learned through the years, it's kind of like I try to steer away from the genie in a bottle version of praying, where I say, Dear Lord, please give me this and this and this. And let's say if I know I want a certain job, or I want a certain place to live, or whatever. If I want a certain thing or a certain idea or a certain relationship to work out, instead of saying, I want this to be this way, I say, Lord, I have this situation. I have this desire for something. I need you to make this happen the way you want it for my life. If you don't want me to have it, please make it obvious. I ask him to be obvious with me. And 9 times out of 10, I get the green light or the red light pretty major. And so that's what I ask, because I'm not truly living on God's path or trusting God with everything if I don't let God move through those ideas or through what I want, because a lot of the times we can't see the big picture. One of my favorite memes is the little girl with the little teddy bear, and she's facing Jesus, and she's holding that little teddy bear like, no, I don't want to give it to you. And Jesus is looking down at her like, here, let me have it. Trust me with this little teddy bear. She can't see that he has a very large teddy bear behind his back. And she can't see that. And so it's that idea of handing over what you love to God and trusting that God will do what's best with it. And also, like, a lot of times I understand the fear about like wrestling with, well, what if what God wants for me isn't what I want and I'm not happy with the results? I completely understand that. And really what I have to look at is then, okay, well, time is just a drop in the bucket for God. There's so much beyond what we can understand that is waiting for us. And if you're just going to hyper focus on this moment, and again, that can sound like I'm trivializing a lot of loss or a lot of change that's traumatic. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give people a general template of perspective when things aren't going your way. And if you are experiencing any kind of grief, which can be from a loss of people or a situation, a job, so much of that, this is how I work with God towards that next place of peace of mind, which is there's a big teddy bear waiting for me, whether that's heaven, whether that's everything before that, right? I can't know everything that God has in store for me, but I can trust that he is waiting to give it to me at the right time.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, what I'd like to do right now is show the audience your bio here. So this is Jennifer's bio in her site to reach out to her, to book her for events, to listen to her music, and just to connect with her in general. I usually wouldn't do this to you and put you on the spot, and you definitely can say no. But would you like to? Would you like to give like a little tiny 1-minute song entry into your song, or do you hate to sing without back?
Oh,
I just would love to hear your voice.
Well, sure. So yeah, I do this thing. I have this medley that I do, and so I'll try to do it like because it's kind of my go-to. Because I promised audience we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but really for a cappella, I love to do hymns. So if you're cool with that, I'll try to do this medley and see where it goes. Okay. Let me just figure it out. Okay. We fall down, we lay our crowns at the feet of Jesus. The greatness of his mercy and love at the feet of Jesus, and we cry, holy, 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 and we cry, holy, 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 and we cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. 'Cause I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice to worship you, oh my soul. Rejoice, take joy, my King, in what you hear. May it be a sweet, sweet sound in your ear.
That's one of my favorite songs. Thank you so much. That just filled my heart so much. I do all of my connection with God with praise and worship. I go to a whole new place. So that was just beautiful, Jennifer. I'm blessed to know you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm left. I don't know what else to say. I just think let's end on that because that was just like
drop mic. Just I don't know.
Yeah, that's just like, oh God, thank you for Jennifer, thank you for her beautiful voice. You blessed her with Father God. It's in the hope, health, and healing in her life. And for those that are joining us live here today, please consider coming to Branson, Missouri. Our mask mandates have been lifted. It's gorgeous, 80 degrees. I can't wait to go out to the swimming pool. Our swimming pools are open. Yay, God. Tourism is back in Branson. The shows are going on. We've got the amazing play, Jesus, playing in Branson right now. And this conference is going to be amazing for everyone to come to. 18 speakers sharing stories of dying and going to heaven, prostitution, killing someone and being set free. Just story after story after story. And, folks, I do not believe at all that this conference will have any politics to it. But God led me, and I just want people to understand this if they're hearing me. God led me to reach out to someone running for office this year, who he just felt inspired to run for office, and he's decided to speak at our conference. So if you hear his voice, that we're promoting him, know that we're not promoting him to vote for him. We're promoting him because we really believe his story is one of hope, health, and healing. So we've asked both Mark and Patty McCluskey from St. Louis to be our guest speakers, and they went through a trying time this year, if you believe their story or not, but they did go through a trying time of gunfire going through their office because they tried to protect their home in St. Louis when people broke through their gated community. So we are asking them to speak on how God's brought them through that horrific, troubling time of trauma and how he's healing their hearts now with hope, health, and healing. So he's going to be one of our speakers, and I wanted to give you that information coming from me, if you see him, that he's coming to share story and not politics. So with that, we hope that you'll sign up. It's only $84, and go to braveheartworkshops.com and register today. And Jennifer, I'm so blessed. I would love it if you can come to Branson, just because I would love to meet you. And, who knows, if you come, maybe you can jump on stage and sing a song for us, because
sure.
I would love to hear you. I would love to hear you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. To go big. Like, there's a whole bunch of other big notes in there that I just. That's not the song for it, but yeah. And I want to sponsor a ticket. So, like, whenever we get further down the road, and God shows you someone who may need to be there, I would like to sponsor a ticket. So I really love what you're doing, and I thank God for you too, Jill, sincerely.
Well, I'm glad you just brought that up. So I would say, please, anyone that would like to, that cannot attend for personal reasons or whatever, but they have the financial means to spend $84, I would ask you now, not wait, right now, go online and register. There's a tab we just added last night that says, I'm not attending, but would like to sponsor someone for $84. Click that. We added one more tab last night, Jennifer, that says, I am attending and I want to sponsor someone. If you want to sponsor someone for $84 and attend, your your registration is 50% off. So instead of you paying $84 for yourself, you're paying $44. So, and it's funny you said that because I brought this up yesterday and a friend of mine went online immediately to sponsor. And 5 minutes later, I got an email from someone, and a 71-year-old woman saying, I would love to come, but I'm on Social Security and can't afford to. And I says, well, guess what? You're coming because someone just sponsored you.
So good.
So I would
that's going to happen a lot, I bet.
Yeah, so I would just say go and sponsor now, everyone, because as soon as you do, God's going to have someone reach out to me to say, I want to come, and I'm going to say, oh, guess what? Jennifer McGill in Tennessee just sponsored you, and you get to come. So, yeah, so thank you so much for your love, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. Everyone, signing off from the Connection Show. Have a blessed day. Thanks, Jen. Thanks for joining us on the Connection Show. Let's connect now. Let's restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Enhance connection in our online connection circles. A place to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Click on the Books Podcast tab, and then the Connection Circles drop down. On the pop-up, join our Connection Circles Facebook group. Our circles meet from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Share story, topics, and laughter with men and women. To learn more about Connection Circles, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Thanks for joining us on the Connection Show, and have a great day.